Jack's bean problem. Forget that hen. Now it's time for the best story of the whole book. My story. Because once upon a time, I traded our last cow for 3 magic beans. And, hey Giant, what are you doing here? You're wrecking my whole story. I don't like that story, says the Giant. You always trick me. That's the best part, said Jack. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I have made my own story. Great rhyme, Giant. And I'm sure your story is just as good. But there's no room for it. So why don't you just climb back in the beanstalk? I'll be up in a few minutes to steal your gold and your singing harp. I'll grind your bones to make my bread. I knew you'd understand. And there's another little thing that's been bugging me. Could you please stop talking in uppercase letters? It's really messing up the page. I will read my story now, said the Giant. And he did. Giant Story. The end of the evil stepmother, and I'll huff and snuff and give you 3 wishes. The beast changed into 7 dwarves happily ever after, for a spell had been cast by a wicked witch once upon a time. That's your story? Said Jack. You've got to be kidding. That's not a fairly stupid tale. That's an incredibly stupid tale. That's an unbelievably stupid tale. That is the most stupid tale I have ever... The Giant grabbed Jack and dragged him to the next page. Jack's story. Once upon a time, there was a giant. The Giant squeezed Jack and said, Tell me a better story, or I will grind your bones to make my bread. And when your story is finished, I will grind your bones to make my bread anyway. Ho, ho, ho. The Giant laughed, an ugly laugh. Jack thought, He'll kill me if I do. He'll kill me if I don't. There's only one way to get out of this. Jack cleared his throat and then began his story. Once upon a time there was a giant. The Giant squeezed Jack and said, Tell me a better story, and I'll grind your bones to make my bread. And when your story is finished, I will grind your bones to make my bread. Anyways, ho, ho, ho. The Giant laughed an ugly laugh. Jack thought, He'll kill me if I do, he'll kill me if I don't. There's only one way to get out of this. Jack cleared his throat and began his story. Once upon a time there was a giant. The Giant squeezed Jack and said, Tell me a better story, or I'll grind your bones to make my bread. When the story is finished, I will grind your bones to make my bread anyhow. Ho, ho, ho. The Giant laughed an ugly laugh. Jack thought, He'll kill me. I can't read it anymore. It got too small. Look. It starts out big and it keeps going on and on. It's so little I can't even read it anymore. Can't read it. Too small. His story went on and on. Cinderrumpelstiltskin, or the girl who really blew it. Once upon a time there was a beautiful girl named Cinderella who lived with her wicked stepmother and 2 ugly stepsisters. These step-relatives were not only wicked and ugly, they also made Cinderella clean the house every day. One day, the local prince announced that he was holding a fabulous ball at his castle. Everyone was invited. The stepmother and stepsisters got all dressed up to go, but, as usual, they made Cinderella clean the house. So, she didn't have time to get ready for the ball. After the stepmother and stepsisters left for the ball, Cinderella sat down and began to cry. Just then, a little man appeared. "Please don't cry," he said. "I can help you spin straw into gold." "I don't think that will do me much good," said Cinderella. "I need a fancy dress, glass slippers, and a coach." "Would you like to try to guess my name?" said the clever little man. Cinderella looked at him. "No, not really." "Come on. Do you think it's Chester?" "If you don't have a dress, it doesn't really matter." "Oh, just guess a name, any name." "I'm not supposed to talk to strangers," said Cinderella. Then she closed the door and left the little man standing outside screaming, "Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin!" When the stepmother and stepsisters got home from the ball, Cinderella told them about the strange little man. They still made her clean the house. And meaner still, they changed her name to Rumpelstiltskin. The end. The Tortoise and the Hare. Once upon a time, there was a tortoise who was very slow, but very dependable. He would always get where he set out to go. It just took him longer than most people. One day, Rabbit saw a tortoise walking slowly, but surely, down the road and said, "Tortoise, you're so slow. I could probably grow hair faster than you run." "Oh, yeah?" said Tortoise slowly. "Yeah," said Rabbit. So they decided to race. On the day of the big race, Tortoise and Rabbit lined up at the starting line. Owl said, "On your mark, get set, grow!" Tortoise started to run. Rabbit started to grow his hair. Tortoise ran. Rabbit grew 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 his hair. Tortoise is still running. Rabbit is still growing his hair. Not the end.